From Interfaith Alliance, this is State of Belief Radio. I'm your host, Reverend Welton Gaddy. Especially at this time of year, many of us spend far more time with family, or at least thinking about family. That's why it seemed timely this week to learn about an organization based in Amherst, Massachusetts, that's working to promote the welcoming of all families in our society. It's called the Family Diversity Projects. Several of their exhibits have been shown widely across the country this year, as well as the compelling We Have Faith displays. And joining me right now is Peggy Gillespie, the project's co-director. Peggy, welcome to State of Belief Radio.
Thank you so much for hosting me. I appreciate it.
I'm eager for our listeners to find out more about your work. You've got an awful lot going on. Before we get into the specifics of recent exhibits, though, would you outline the subject areas in which the Family Diversity Projects operate and tell us where the idea for this came from?
Well, I can tell you that we started in about 1993 with a project on race called Of Many Colors, which featured people of multiracial families, both adoptive and interracial couples. And the reason we started, Gigi Kaiser was my daughter's preschool teacher and also a successful photographer. And I was the adoptive mom of a multiracial daughter, and so I wanted to learn more from people that had been down that road before. So we created this exhibit, wrote a story for the Boston Globe on multiracial families. I'm a journalist. And from there, people started wanting our exhibit. Then we went to Love Makes a Family on LGBT people and their families, which caused an enormous, we'll say, controversy in Amherst when all the elementary schools were going to host it. And it led to a federal lawsuit that was ruled in favor of the schools showing Love Makes a Family. And because of the publicity for that project, it began to travel actually worldwide. And you know, people at that time, they were saying, this was 1996, that these families, these LGBT families were going to, they put it, sexually harass the young children. They should not learn about gay and lesbian families at such an early age as elementary school. We became featured in the wonderful film It's Elementary about teaching gay issues in elementary schools, which I think is crucial, as well as church schools and synagogue schools and the like. And from there, we went on to kind of look at all the range of diversity that we could come up with as an exhibit. We did mental illness, Nothing to Hide. We did disabilities, The Road to Freedom, which I worked on with a group of 8th graders, actually, who helped with the interviews. And we have one famous exhibit that touches on all topics called In Our Family, portraits of all kinds of families, and then we have Pioneering Voices, that is portraits of transgender people that a Smith College intern helped create with me.
Well, Peggy, I want to go back all the way back to the first, and then I want to come forward and even look a little bit more at Love Makes a Family project.
Sure.
But the first one was on race. Did you get the kind of response on the subject of race that you have received in response to Love Makes a Family on GLBT issues?
Right. Well, actually, that is an interesting part of our story and our evolution, because when we first brought Of Many Colors to our local schools, it was embraced widely and fully by the whole community and the elementary schools where we started. And it included, of course, gay and lesbian families who happened to be multiracial, but that being not the topic of it, nobody seemed to be upset by that.
It's amazing.
And then we went back to those same schools with Love Makes a Family a couple of years later, expecting the same warm welcome, and the superintendent of schools said, no, we can't bring this to elementary schools. It will make the children think about sex and, you know, because how could two women have a baby? And I said to him, well, if a pregnant school teacher, straight school teacher, comes into school, don't you think the children are going to wonder, how she got pregnant, and is she going to really answer that question fully? So it became, again, it was like this headline for a year in Amherst papers and Northampton papers. Petitions were signed, and finally when it did get sent into all the elementary schools, I remember one child writing in the guest book, "What was the big deal? It's just families." Another one wrote, "We're all created equal, remember?" with a big question mark. So it was a radically different response, at least in our town.
That's amazing. And actually, it exposes a stereotype, I think, because most people would say, well, Amherst, Massachusetts, these are going to be very progressive-thinking people, and this won't be a problem there.
Right.
And here is the surprise. Yes, it's a problem here as it is elsewhere, and we would hope it's not a problem anywhere.
That's true. And then, but to be fair, racism is still alive and wildly and sadly well, in many, many places. And so I remember once when we had Of Many Colors up down south, although I don't want to stereotype the South because it could have happened anywhere, we got a call, I was going to be on a radio show, and she asked me not to mention interracial families because we could talk about adoptive families. I said, but most of the exhibitors of interracial families. And she said, well, down here, that in this particular town, that's not going to go over so well. Oh. And so, it's prejudice, sadly, exists about every kind of issue still. Mental illness provokes, a lot of stigma. So, but yes, the LGBT issue, whenever our exhibit goes anywhere, even the one on all kinds of families, if there's any controversy, it's always about the gay and lesbian parented families.
I mentioned in the introduction that this particular time of the year with holidays in two major religious traditions at least, and actually in more than that if you broaden to the non-theistic religions, that it is a time in which people think about family, and that means, I think, that non-traditional families seem more often to find themselves particularly marginalized. Do you see that, and do you see your work in this area more as bolstering families facing those challenges, or in changing the hearts and minds of those who are causing the problems?
Well, I would hope that we are doing both.
Yes.
I think we want to change the hearts and minds of, we'll say, the movable middle, and even some people that are a little further down the what people think of as unmovable, and get them to move, and to see that all families need to be safe, need to be equally valued, need to have legal rights. Every family, every person needs to be treated with love and respect. And it's, as Reverend Rebecca Volkel said when I interviewed her for the We Have Faith project, she basically said it's blasphemy to be saying hateful things about any kind of person. We're all God's children. We're all God's creation is good. Whether you're theistic or atheist, we all everybody needs to be appreciated, and
yes,
and children, and particularly a lot of our exhibits go into schools from K through 12 and colleges. Everybody. Every family structure, including people that are, not choosing to have children, people that have families of friends that are single, that we all create our families, and we all need to be valued, loved, supported, and accepted.
Well, before we run out of time, I want you to tell me something about the We Have Faith exhibit.
Yes. We Have Faith. We have just launched it in 6 cities in October. It's lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender clergy and people of faith speak out. That's the subtitle, and it includes people who are not clergy, but also allies, such as Methodist minister Reverend Carpin in New York, who has a church that welcomes all people, and even though the Methodists have still not voted to accept LGBT clergy. And the purpose of this exhibit, we're so excited about it as it's traveling, getting rave reviews wherever it's been, all the different churches. Right now it's at First Covenant Baptist, UCC, and in D.C., and at City of Refuge, Bishop Flunder's wonderful church out in San Francisco, celebrating their 30th anniversary, and in New York at the MCC New York. We want it to go to every single house of worship that it can reach, both places that are open and affirming and places that want to be, and places that are debating about it. We want to help every LGBT youth realize that there's another way of seeing faith and being LGBT that is far from what the religious right or wrong, as people call them, have said. That no one is an abomination, no one is outside of God's love. Everyone is included and to be accepted for who they are, and that's the message this exhibit. So we hope, let's say, every listener will bring it to their house of worship.
Let's get specific about that, because in some of our listeners may be saying, well, we've been waiting for someone with this kind of information that can help. For people interested, how can they find out more about your work, and how can they get in touch to bring the family diversity projects to their own communities? Yes.
Well, we have, of course, a website, which is FamilyDiv, D as in dog, I, V as in Victor, as in diversity, or familydiversity.org. They can find all of our exhibits there. They can email me at info@familydiv.org. And we also had a wonderful article in the National Advocate this week, so they can see that if they check that out online under Arts and Entertainment. And we're right in the midst of a major Kickstarter campaign so that we can raise funds for this exhibit. It ends December 15th, so we need everybody to donate, even $1, just everything. Spread the word, because we want to be able to give this exhibit by donations rather than, and we are tiny nonprofits, so we need to survive. And that Kickstarter campaign you can find under We Have Faith, under Kickstarter.com. So those are the different ways, but, basically come to our website and join us and bring our exhibits. They've been all over the world. We Have Faith, I think, is our shining jewel in the crown right now, and we want it to be shown everywhere. So,
Peggy Gillespie is co-director of the Family Diversity Projects based in Amherst, Massachusetts. Peggy, we really do wish you success. It's a wonderful work that you're doing, and we thank you for being with us today on State of Belief Radio, and we invite you to come back and tell us how it's doing.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your advocacy and your brilliant work in this field, too.